okay?
Yes.
This is the time in our gathering when we choose songs. So this is your choice.
You're 77.
That's what I was gonna say. Thank you. That's how we know the spirits of music.
Yes.
That is not in my book.
Oh, I don't know what that says.
She needs another book.
Oh, she needs another one. First and the last, or? Yes, Tom.
470.
470. First and last, okay?
Sure.
That's a joke. $289, and then we will move to announcements. have choice of verses, first and last, because that's our pattern today. Please join me in the welcome. There we go. Welcome to the United Church.
We are a peace and justice community,
A movement toward wholeness in a fragmented world. Together we create a strong sense of belonging, a safe place to flourish, and opportunities to grow in our own way and in our own time. So let's take a moment for announcements. I see Judy, Michelle, Jan.
2 weeks from today, our questions and conversation group will meet again. The question for consideration that day is how to think with my heart. In addition, in order to answer that question, we must also consider how well do I know my ego?
Almost 2 weeks from today, on Friday, July 14th, beginning at 3 p.m., we will re-up our book group. This time we're focusing on the book, The Cross and the Lynching Tree by James Cone. Cone is C-O-N-E. I reread the beginning of it last night because I thought, oh, I've made a terrible mistake recommending this book. I'm not sure it's really worth discussing. And it is. It's a great book. So if you are interested, you still have time to get the book. And we will meet from 3 to 4:30 on Friday, the 14th. And to prepare, you want to read the introduction and the first chapter.
And I want to tell you that we're going to do another Mandala mini retreat for the Kitchen Wisdom series on the 22nd of July. That Saturday morning from 9:30 to 11:30. It's a great chance to bring friends or people who just want to do a little fun thing on Saturday. But what everybody can do to help is, I want to do a mandala with collage. So I need magazines and things like that to use for collage. So I put a box back here on our information table to collect magazines in. So please bring in your old magazines that we can tear up and use for that. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Okay, then I'm gonna invite Liz. Liz is bringing us a special announcement.
My name, and Greg, this is my husband, Greg Smith. My name is Liz Smith, and my kids and I were welcomed into this congregation in 2011. We felt really comfortable here because we had attended a UCC church in Pennsylvania. Donna and this congregation have seen me through some really difficult times, including health and personal challenges, and also the joy of my remarriage. But last winter, so that was winter of 2022, I experienced a different and more profound sense of connection, both spiritual and personal. This was the time when I felt that not only was I welcomed here, but that I truly belonged here. That everything that, as Donna says, that I knew about the natural world was being affirmed by what I was hearing, learning, and feeling as part of this church. The ancient Celts and the Hebrews loved and were connected with nature. They drew inspiration and sustenance from it. And so too did I from the series that Donna shared with us during that winter of 2022. And this inspiration and sustenance enabled Greg and me to start a nonprofit called the Fish Island Community Alliance. And it enabled us to help save 30 acres of land from development on Anastasia Island. We are grateful to all of you for your prayers and your support. And I want you to know that each and every one of you has been a part of everything we have done. You were there when we picked up trash. You were there when we spoke to the city commissioners. And you continue to be there as we continue to advocate for environmental preservation and awareness and environmental education. So know that you are a part of everything we have done and continue to do. So let's take a quick look at what we have done this past winter and spring. So as you can see up on the screen, this is our newsletter for the Fish Island Community Alliance. And we were really, really busy in April. April has become Earth Month, and what you're seeing are photos from Kids Ocean Day. So we worked with 155 third graders from Title I schools. That, if you're unfamiliar with the term, it means that a majority of the kids are free lunch. So these are low-income children, many of whom are minorities, and we were able to share an environmentally based yoga lesson. Each kid got a goodie bag, and we did a lesson with them about the animals and birds and plants and trees that live on Fish Island Road. So the land inspires what we do. Everything we teach comes from the land. Another event we had in April was we worked with the A1A Scenic Byways and provided refreshments for long distance bikers. And I don't know if you could see these slides, but they were forming conga lines and drinking pickle juice, and it was a lot of fun and great to partner with a wonderful organization. This was, I think, Lullaby of the River. Yes. Lullaby of the Rivers is a wonderful group of people who are musicians and environmentalists. And Bob Patterson, one of the founders, wrote a song about the rivers in Florida. So they started an expo or festival 3 years ago. We were part of that, and then they also had an expo this year. Wonderful to work with kids, to share our message, and to help educate and promote good things about the environment, working with these wonderful musicians. This was an event that one of our volunteers put together. We were at the St. Augustine Pier on a Market Wednesday with the City of St. Augustine Beach giving out trees for Arbor Day. We had a wonderful response to our booth, met lots of new people, and even met a gentleman who works with the TAG Children's Museum and has invited us to be part, maybe having an exhibit at the new Children's Museum. We love to help publicize local events, so beach cleanups, other kinds of cleanups, environmental presentations, eco cinema,
That's part of what we do through our social media outreach. So we love to work with other like-minded organizations. We are proud to help with the Clean Water Initiative, working with them. This was at the pier at St. Augustine Beach for Music by the Sea. The fun stuff is the festivals and working with kids. The hard stuff is giving presentations in front of county and city commissioners, planning and zoning boards. But we feel strongly that advocacy is part of our work. So here I was giving a presentation to the City of St. Augustine commissioners about having the land at Fish Island Road permanently put into a conservation easement. A big part of what we do is educate through our social media. So I did some posts this past spring about bird migration, which is really fascinating, using data and information from the Cornell Lab and Audubon. And there's another slide on bird migration. I just can't see it. This is our volunteer spotlight. One of our volunteers works for Berkshire Hathaway, and she helped us with a fundraiser at the holidays, and this was a celebration in which we were presented with a $500 check, which is wonderful. We are primarily self-funded. Greg says I put the non in nonprofit, but it was really wonderful to have that support from Berkshire Hathaway. One of the things our members really seem to enjoy is information about local history. So this is Aviles, and it's a post about Anastasia Island once being the seat of the city of St. Augustine. This is another informational post that was really popular. It's about a plant called wax myrtle, which is related to bayberries. If you're familiar with them, they get waxy berries on them. Posts about, we call them the deer, D-E-A-R-D-E-E-R on Fish Island Road are really popular. So we had a little fawn last year, and then I have a picture of a yearling, and then at the top is a picture of a deer running through the marsh. And I am not a naturalist. I'm a retired English teacher and a copywriter. So I enjoy learning about these animals and sharing. It's just pure joy. This was a very popular post about a cottonmouth, and it generated a lot of discussion. Snakes are part of the natural world too, even venomous snakes. And I think I began the post by saying it's not all bunnies and butterflies here at Fish Island Road. So this is about the upcoming things we had. We were working with Florida Water Warriors, which is an environmental education group, and they believe in educational equity. So we helped with a fundraiser last Friday. We are also planning on programming at the Webster School, which is a local school off of Holmes Boulevard and West King Street in West Augustine. It's a Title I school, just like those Flagler schools, and we will be doing environmental enrichment programming with them. So thank you very much for everything you do and have done and will continue to do as a congregation. We could not do it without your support.
Thank you. And the nonprofit is FICA, right? Fish Island Community Alliance. My accounting brain, when I hear FICA, says something different, so all must help me remember which FICA. Thank you very much. This is the second lesson in our summer series, which is titled Kitchen Wisdom, Nourishment for Hungry Hearts and Souls. And there's a description of the series in the Connections newsletter. My favorite verse, which is grounding the series, is John 2:9. The caterer tasted the water
which had been turned into wine, without knowing where it had come from. The only ones who knew were those who were waiting on the tables. That'll preach. Today, we're going to focus on the difference between being welcomed and belonging. And frankly, I had trouble fitting it into the kitchen metaphors. Even though I had a lot of stories about being welcomed and unwelcomed in churches and kitchens as I moved along. But I thought maybe today we could just frame it as if we are searching for a recipe that creates a sense of belonging as well as a recipe for creating a community that is welcoming. And apparently we believe there must be a recipe of some sort because we have recently expanded our welcome statement to include an observation that one of you actually made. We expanded the welcome statement so now it now includes our commitment to create together a sense of belonging. And the question is, how do we do that? What is the recipe we use? I think that is my tablet. I don't need it. Well, I do need it. So don't take it home. So what's interesting is while we in this church are focused on creating that sense of belonging, the UCC, which is one of the denominations that we are affiliated with, has long prided themselves on being a church that is extravagantly welcoming. Have you heard that term before? The Church of Extravagant Welcome. And we have this mantra that the UCC cooked up. No matter who you are, or where you are in life's journey, you're welcome here. And they also created some television ads. Remember those? Let's take a look. You want to dim the lights, Tom?
The United Church of Christ, no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you're welcome.
It's kind of interesting that what those ads shows is the opposite of being welcoming, right? The opposite of who belongs. Because sometimes it's easier to say what something is not than what it is. Honestly, I think the UCC has conflated welcoming and belonging. I think they are different. You may not agree. But what I've learned is that belonging happens in our hearts. It's not something that we see, it's something we feel. And welcoming is a little bit different. Welcoming happens here. There we are again, back to the heart and the head. There is an article titled Welcoming 8 Belonging, where Scott Welch, who's the creator of the Belonging Index, is interviewed, and he offers this reminder. We can welcome anyone by hanging up a sign. But a sense of belonging comes through humans, through people. When and where have you felt welcomed? When and where have you felt unwelcome? And do you have a sense of where you belong? Let's take a few deep breaths and consider these questions. Breathe in deeply and exhale fully. Where do you feel welcome? When have you felt unwelcome? a sense of where you belong. Holy One, we are grateful for your welcoming, loving presence. We are grateful for each person here, gathered in the sacred and safe space of community. May we be sensitive to the wisdom which resonates from deep within our hearts. May it nourish our minds and our bodies. And may we be transformed as we explore what it means to be welcomed and what it means to belong. Come, Holy Spirit, come.
Join me in a description of wisdom. Inside wisdom, there is a spirit of intelligence and holiness that is unique and unmistakable.
Subtle, dynamic, perceptive, pristine.
Unclouded, unconquerable, compassionate.
Shrewd, compelling, generous, and
Loving toward mortals.
faithful, flawless, serene.
Directing all, knowing all. Wisdom moves more swiftly than motion itself.
She is so pure that she pervades and permeates all living things.
She is the breath of the power of God.
A pure light of the glory of the Most High.
She is the light that shines forth from everlasting light.
Flawless here of the dynamism of God.
And the perfect image of the Holy One's goodness.
So alone of her kind, she can do all things.
Though unchanging, she renews all things.
Generation after generation, she enters into holy souls.
And makes them friends of God.
I love the closing phrases, generation after generation. Wisdom enters into holy souls and makes us friends of God. As we prepare to receive the wisdom of today's readings, let's continue reflecting upon the difference between belonging and welcoming. And this reflection comes in the form of questions. So how many books in the Bible were written by women?
None.
None. How many were written for women?
All of them.
So none were written by, but all were written for. Okay. How many were written about?
2.
We'll have to ask Luke. So I'm going to shift just a little bit. How many women are named in the Bible?
26.
The guess was 26. The answer is 137. How many references are made to women? More than 600. And that includes like phrases such as daughters and mothers and women. Okay, so now another little shift. Do women's stories belong in the Bible? Should stories shared by women be part of the Bible? Is anyone familiar with the Gospel of Mary? This would be Mary Magdalene's gospel. With gospel meaning good news story. I want to make clear which Mary we're speaking about. Do you know why it's not in the Bible? Jean-Yves Le-Loup is a biblical scholar, and in his book about the Gospel of Mary, he offers a glimpse into why it's not there. He writes that the earliest materials that refer to the Gospel of Mary come from 2 different sources. First would be what we call the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then there's another set of he refers to as fringe materials, the Gnostic Gospels. The Gnostic Gospels were rejected by the Roman Catholic Church. So Gospel of Mary's story is the story of rejection, of oppression, suppression. It's a story about whose point of view was welcomed and whose point of view was not welcomed, about who belongs, who doesn't belong. And according to the book, it reads like an adventure novel. The decisions about should Mary's gospel be in or out were made by people in power. People with enough authority and a loud enough microphone, if I can use that metaphor, to decide which books should be in the library and which books should not be in the library, right? Does that sound familiar? Back in the day, there were book burnings and secret meetings of little groups of like-minded people, along with torture, exile, shunning, silencing, etc. Here's the irony. The greatest amount of suppression of Christian literature took place when Constantine declared Christianity was the official religion. So it's as if it were said, now we're all Christian, let's suppress the Christians, right? That's what happened to Mary's gospel. Mary's gospel was composed the same time period as the other gospels. So we'll get that little context, right? Jesus lived approximately from the year 0 to 35-ish. The Gospel of Mark was written somewhere around the year 35. Luke and Matthew were written somewhere around the year 70. The Gospel of John and the Gospel of Mary were written somewhere around the year 150. So she's a contemporary. 150 years later, Constantine proclaimed Christianity to be the official religion, and suddenly Mary's gospel was no longer welcome. A lot of decisions were made about which stories are welcome, who's not welcome. And that's how Mary became an outsider. Matthew, Mark, Luke, insiders. Mary's an outsider. Let's listen now to the contemporary readings. So are you prepared to read? No? Did you want to read or no? Okay.
Works of Mercy by Sally Thomas. Often, after all, it is the outsider who sees things. From the Gospel of Mary. What is matter? Will it last forever? The teacher answered, all that is born, all that is created, all the elements of nature are interwoven and united with each other. All that is composed shall be decomposed. Everything returns to its roots. Matter returns to the origins of matter. Those who have ears, let them hear. From Matthew, when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of glory, of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep at his right hand and the goats at his left. Then he will say to those at his left hand, you who are accursed, depart from me into the eternal fire. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me.
So according to tradition, the Gospel of Matthew belongs. The Gospel of Mary does not belong. Matthew's in, Mary's out. And then comes that little tidbit of wisdom from the contemporary reading. It is the outsider who sees things. The outsider sees things differently. That'll preach, right? It's a statement worth considering. Is there any value in the ones who see things differently? The different perspectives belong. Those questions, right there, that's the recipe. That's the recipe. If we were to take the time to explore and talk about that reading, that bit of wisdom together, we would create a sense of belonging. Right? That's the recipe, we'll come back to. Before we do, I want to spend just a few more minutes looking at Mary and Matthew. I wonder if you noticed that they were both describing what was going to happen in the end times. Did you pick up on that? So Mary asked Jesus a question. Is the essence of what's been created going to live forever? And Jesus says all of creation is interwoven, united, connected. Everything that is composed will decompose, and in the end, everything returns to its roots. I hear in the end, everything returns to the beginning. What did Matthew say was going to happen in the end times? And goats did not mean greatest of all time, right? Or maybe it did, maybe that was threatening. The Son of Man comes in his glory and sits upon his glorious throne. It was the emperor, it was people in power choosing these verses. How convenient. Which ones were chosen, which ones kept out. Matthew goes on to say that not only does the Son of Man come in glory and sit on the glorious thrones, but then the Son of Man begins separating people. As if we're sheep and goats. Sheep are separated and moved to the right, which actually is a place of honor in the empire. And the goats, sorry for you, buddy, into the fires of hell. If you were choosing end-time descriptions to put in the Bible, would you choose Mary or Matthew? Or both? If you were a king choosing, might you choose differently? If you were a king concerned with conquering and claiming, if we were choosing together, which would we choose? Is it possible that we would include both? I think it's probably pretty possible. What if I were to take this just a step further? Dare I? Push the boundaries, change the narrative a little bit? What if instead of treating the Bible as a source of unending and unerring authority, the stories were considered to be a source of inspiration? Inspiration that could stimulate conversations, create space for different ways of thinking, seeing, sharing. Anybody here grow up with this? Bible means basic instructions before leaving Earth. Do you remember that? I want to be one of the goats. It was really, I don't know, to me, I could just see us using the Bible as inspiration, having conversations which are not centered in academia, right? Not centered in historical research, but instead conversations about these stories which welcome and honor different viewpoints, which honor and listen to questions and doubts and lived experiences, kind of like the Friendly Bible Study, maybe? Anybody here come to the Friendly Bible Study? What about the third Sunday question and conversations? What about the spiritual communities? Anybody read The Circle? Of course you all did. For those who forgot what they did this week, I put copies of The Circle up here. According to Scott Welch, who is the founder and president of Global Bridge Builders, that type of conversation which we described, the type that we're already using, is the number one way to create a sense of belonging. That's the recipe. You know what he says stops the sense of belonging? Getting into little cliques. sitting in the same seats, gathering around the same table with like-minded people. Sense of belonging is created by honoring diversity. Source of belonging comes through other humans who create opportunities to connect and share unique individual perspectives. Anyone get aggravated with me when I move the chairs? What happened when I moved the tables? Anyone remember that? Yeah, not talking that one. That's kind of a good place to end, right? You get the point. Belonging comes through rich conversations, through difference and diversity. The more the difference, the richer the congregation or the community. So, Jan, can we sing the invitation to the table? We're gonna keep building the house where love is found, in water, wine, and wheat. Let's build a house where love is found. Water, wine, and wheat. A bed with all unholy ground, where peace and justice meet. In the love of God through Jesus, is revealed in time and space. As we share in Christ our peace and freedom, all are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome in this place. It is at this point in our time together when we move through this phase. We bring our offerings forward, place them in the plate. We share our prayer requests. You're invited to touch the water, feel the heat of the flame, enjoy the flowers on the table. Taste the bread of life and drink from the cup of love. And we do this remembering Jesus, who gathered with friends and enemies and strangers and neighbors. And in that gathering, stories were shared, doubts were expressed, concerns were lifted up, and prayers were prayed. Let us do likewise. Holy One, as we gather at the table, we ask that your wisdom, that your blessing be upon us. We want to lift up the people that we are concerned about. For our prayer requests are made. Pray for Lorraine, Danny, Susan, Will. You are invited to say names with me.
Sandy.
Janine,
Andrew. Ken. Jason.
Mary. Peggy. Now, as we share the bread and we share the cup, we are grateful for your welcoming presence. We are grateful for safe spaces to belong. Amen. All things are ready. May the gifts that we share become a source of hope, wholeness, and healing for our community. Guess we should have picked up the instruments while we were moving around, so we can pass those out. I think it's the best part of the service according to some people in the group. The closing song is a familiar tune, new words set to a familiar tune. Happy birthday to you.